We turn now to air carriers, refunding more than $600 million to hundreds of thousands of passengers for all the canceled or changed flights since the start of the pandemic. And the Transportation Department announced this week the federal regulators say half a dozen airlines skirted rules as far as those refunds, and more than $7 million in fines have now been levied against 6 airlines for extreme delays in providing the refunds to the passengers. Most of the fines dished out to foreign-based airlines, but Frontier, the only American carrier to get fined. So let's talk about fines and the role that the Transportation Department plays in this with our legal expert, Whitney Traylor. So is this it for the fines? Is this one and done for the Transportation Department?
No, I don't think so. And I base that on, I think Pete Buttigieg and some others have made comments that they're going to look at this even further, because this was just related to the refund issue in terms of when there was a delay, a significant delay. Under the law, they're supposed to refund a certain amount, and Frontier and others were delaying the refunds, making it difficult and other things. They have said there were 6 airlines, 5 of them international, and then Frontier. And then they mentioned that they will be going after other airlines, I think, before the end of this year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it was, universal. Everybody complained about problems all summer long and what was going on. So if you were in that group that had that miserable experience, how do you know if you're entitled to a refund?
Right. So they should have been notified. Folks should be getting notified, but they can definitely go to, I don't know if Fly Frontier on their actual website has anything, but I know the Department of Transportation definitely has information. And it was actually because they had received so many complaints. And I looked back at my notes. I did a segment on this a year ago, in last September, and they had gotten so many complaints, and the DOT wasn't sure what they were going to do. We now know what they did. They levied these fines.
So this is the result not of a lawsuit. This is the result of the public complaining to the Transportation Department, and the Transportation Department being an advocate for the flying community. So people wonder about that. This is a heavily regulated industry. You know, when does it mesh between you get to be a business, you get to do what you got to do, and then you're regulated by the government? We're going to make sure you're doing what you're promising to do.
Right, and it's a great point. And a lot of people say, "Hey, government, get out of our way, let us do business." But then it's when the companies engage in malfeasance. You know, when they're not taking care of the consumers. And of course, it is really a David and Goliath when you're just one passenger and you're going up against Frontier or whoever else. And so that's why they have actually the Department of Transportation Aviation Consumer Protection Division, and so they received 2,600 complaints. And so really this is, for those folks who are saying there's too much government involvement, a lot of it is reactive. It's responsive to people avoiding doing what's right.
I got to say, as far as all the malfeasance is my least favorite.
Is it?
Oh yeah.
It's a bad one, and it's legally actionable.
My least favorite feasance.
And the airlines will say, though, there's a pilot shortage. They have a hard time too staffing things. So I guess they need to prepare and plan. And then, do you actually think there'll be civil lawsuits over stuff like this?
Right. Your first point is a great point, though, that the airlines have difficulty. But what made this more egregious was at least the allegations by the Department of Transportation, because this is almost like a settlement. But the allegation was that Frontier had a more generous policy, and then
backtracked.
And then they backtracked, exactly. And so I don't know, there could be civil lawsuits. This is essentially a contractual agreement, but in light of, you think about it, you're a consumer, you had a 4-hour delay on the tarmac, you're entitled to $200.
Say that happened to you in March of 2021. Do you still have recourse? Should you call the Transportation Department? Should you call Frontier?
Yes, you should. There should be a way on the Department of Transportation website to file your complaint if you're not getting a refund, but you may need to have your ticket and be able to show.
Well, what about if the guy in front of me laid his chair back all the way right as soon as we took off? Can I?
Well,
because that's my complaint.
I think
you're tall. You're really tall.
I think slapping him is frowned upon by the regulations.
I call malfeasance. That is total malfeasance by the guy in 21D.
It's just common courtesy, but now they don't go back that far, so you might be all right.
Whitney, it's always good to talk to you.
Sure thing.
Your insight today.